But of course, in subsequent years, and even when I returned, when we returned in 75 to pursue our education, at the invitation of the Achampong regime, by the way, that they said they will honor our father, take care of us, and give our mother a house, and so forth. So anyway, it was then that I had negative comments about our father for the first time, and they were pretty ruthless. He squandered our gold. He did, even from teachers in Achimota school. Yes.
What did they say?
One economics teacher who, mercifully, I don't remember the name, but said, yes, we are sitting there in class, and she said, oh, and Nkrumah squandered our gold, and I don't know, did what and what. And I'm thinking, oh dear, I was too shy and helpless and, and intimidated to even be able to defend our father to my teacher. And so we heard a lot of these denigrating comments. He amassed wealth, he did this, he did. And of course, we knew very well, being his own family, that was far from the truth. Even the house, which the land was given to him, the house which he built with the help of strong women supporters, entrepreneurs at the time, which is today Pidwasi Lodge, where I was born, that could have been our house, but he gave it to the state. It's the property of the Republic of Ghana, receiving dignitaries just as he wanted it to be. So we, from personal experience, we knew that our father didn't amass wealth. Our father wasn't interested in those kind of things. In fact, he was a leader who exemplified courage, sense of purpose, vision, all the things we long for and we need to emulate in our lives. I mean, leaders across the board, all kinds of leaders.
Your father didn't have a house?
He did not. Strangely, incredibly, he did not.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a decision. Like everything he did, it was a political decision. Yes, I have a very interesting story about how those same women who helped him with the house, the construction of the house. Of course, it was much smaller, by the way. Over the years, it grew, so it wasn't so opulent, But yeah, they were very angry when he gave it back to the state because they wanted him to have a place to go at weekends and, with his family. And he explained to them. So everything he did was studied, was deliberate. He explained to them why he had to be above, superhuman almost, because, he had to ask he intended to ask some of his ministers, close associates, to resign because of malfeasance. And so he had a reason for everything he did. And the fact that he decided not to make money out of politics was a deliberate, studied political decision.
Like, do you want to?
So the previous government or presidents, we have lots of allegations that they have amassed some wealth, building some or having houses or others in abroad, everywhere. Is it because the family wasn't able to identify properties of your father, or it was just that he didn't build anything or any house at all?
Oh yeah, no, he decided not to. We knew that. Our mother used to talk about him not allowing her to keep presents that were given. Sometimes heads of state receive some presents.
It is also presumed that president's children or family are very rich, and we can also assume that past presidents, we could see that their children are well-to-do.
Yes.
So are you not rich?
Okay, that's
President
a good question.
daughter.
Yes, I'm not rich, but I'm rich in many other things. So if I need to do something, I find a way of doing it. The goodwill towards our father's legacy, I think, is our wealth.
Okay.
Because if I need to do something, I will do it. I find the support, I find the collaboration. So, for example, I'm in the process of, we haven't started, of setting up a coconut processing factory.
Fantastic.
in my old constituency in the Western region, and that's a goodwill that makes it possible for people to partner me, to lead me to the right organizations for loans and so forth. So we are wealthy. We are wealthy in many, many ways. And I think, what is that old adage? A good name is better than riches or something. That is so true. I speak from experience.
I think this brings to a question that she's trying to put up some factory. Is it a factory, right?
Yeah, processing, yes.
Right. Okay,
yes.
So your father left a lot of projects.
Absolutely.
Yes, and which of them you feel so sad that that or those projects are now collapsed?
My dear, all of them. Because, I mean, all those factories, agri-industries and others, they were part of the development plan, the 7-year development plan. Even Akosombo was constructed to feed these industries with power. So all of them were essential. All of them were important because they were based on things we produce and we just add value to them. So that was the thrust of the 7-year development plan. Rapid industrialization, linking education with agriculture, with industry. So perfect setup for a developing country. So every single one of them, if you go from northeast, if you find out, you see that it was valid, relevant and viable because it was right where you produce the raw material. That's where you set up a factory. And rural Ghana needs industries because that's where you have the expanse, the space, everything. So if rural Ghana, the day rural Ghana becomes productive with greater economic activity, things will be well with Ghana. And it's the same all over the continent. We are blessed with land, with fertile land, but even the huge Sahara Desert, you know. I remember our father in his 63 speech to the OAU, he says, we can make the Sahara bloom with verdant vegetation. Then, at that time, so it was industrialization, but also greening our space. So not the industrialization that would ravage our land and our space. So there we were way ahead. We were already thinking of climate change, of producing everything that we need. And that is still valid today. Right. Here we are today, decades later, we are still thinking of that. How are we going to industrialize? And how can we facilitate to the the entrepreneurs? How can we lead them into manufacturing rather than just trading, you know? How can we facilitate, help them, advise, encourage them, incentivize them to go into manufacturing? Because that's the one thing that will change our country and continent. And our father added another message or advice. He said, it will be difficult for us to do it on our own because of the way the global economy works and because we are so dependent on exporting our raw material. And so he said, we must build our industries together with other African countries. Economic integration.
Today is Nkrumah's birthday. Let's stick to Nkrumah.
Yes.
Let's stick to
yes. But it's his spirit.
It's the spirit
that is giving it. Yes,
I know.
it's his spirit.
Now let's come back to Daddy.
Okay.
Everybody loves Daddy.
Sure.
Daddy pampered you. But probably there's something Daddy was doing that you didn't like as a little girl. You look at it like that. Daddy, that what you're doing. I don't like it.
Well, I remember
Okay.
he used to insist on giving us this tablespoon of honey. And when we were little, we hated, ironically, we hated sweets.
Okay.
But,
Oh, wow.
So he would be running after us with this honey, which was like, and we are running behind chairs trying to hide. So yes, definitely, I didn't like that spoon.
Was he a strict father?
I can't say he was strict because I think he wanted to make the best out of every moment he spent with us because as you can appreciate, he was very busy. So he wasn't always there. Right. But when he was there, he gave us some time and he, as I said, he just allowed us to be who we are.
What about Mommy?
Yeah, Mommy maybe was stricter because, of course, she had more interaction with us. Yes, we were not spoiled. That's one thing I can. Yes, we were not spoiled because they were both, modest people, father and mother. They were modest people who just wanted to be like everyone else. So they were not. They brought us up this way. I remember one interesting incident when we went back to Egypt after the illegal overthrow of our father's government. And the first, I think, few years, we were given security, actually. We had security personnel, even to take us to school, even to stay within...
In Egypt?
Yes, in Egypt, because we were told that there was a threat on our father's life in Conakry, of course. That's why we couldn't meet. We couldn't travel. He couldn't come. We were told. That's what we were told, that it was dangerous. But also in Egypt itself, in Guinea, we needed some security. At least that's what was told to us. So I remember at one time, one of our guards was a very... God forgive me, ugly. You can say an ugly man in the eyes of a child.
Okay.
Eyes of this man, but he was dark like us. We are dark in Egypt. We are like the Nubians.
You are dark.
You are dark?
Yes, I know you cannot. Maybe when we are in the sun. But Egyptians come in various colors.
Right.
Anyway, but from the south, the Egyptians from the south are our color and darker.
Okay.
From Aswan, look, so those beautiful places. So anyway, I go to school and my friend says, "Oh, but who's that? Some of the children. Is this your father?" And I said, "No, my father is very handsome. This is not my..." So I go home and I'm like so angry. And I tell my mother, "I don't want this man to come with us. He's ugly and everybody thinks it's my father. And I have to tell them he's not." And mother, instead of sympathizing with me, she gave me a smack. She said, "How dare you say this man who's protecting you is an ugly man?" And I never forgot that. Because, I realized immediately what I had done. And these kind of things, they somehow give you a different perspective. Yeah. So this is how we were brought up. We were, and those principles were ingrained in us, and they never leave you.
Samia, I don't know why we've spoken for probably about close to 30 minutes or more. When we mention your mother, you got emotional. Why?
Yeah, I always get emotional when I talk about both of them, actually. When I talk about them from a personal point of view. You see, for me, they are my parents, my dad, my mom, but they are also these figures which symbolize much more than what they were humanly. So yes, so when I think of the human side, I'm thinking, I think because, to answer your question, I didn't understand it at the time, but as a woman, growing up and becoming a woman myself, I could see that she paid the ultimate price. She sacrificed. They were married for only 8 years. I mean, they were together, not married. They were together for only 8 years. So that's a young, beautiful woman, and she was left with 3 children. But that's how it is. That's how it was. I mean, that is the price we paid for our independence. And it's a price we are still paying, you know, to become economically independent, to raise the standard of living of the people. I always tell people when we speak, it entails sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Some people have to make up their mind and sacrifice.
Did your mommy remarry?
No, she never did.
She never did?
Absolutely. So that gives you an idea. I mean, that's another thing. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you know, that maybe it's a generational thing, but I don't want to say that because it's not. I think it's just. I think she took the legacy really seriously, and she couldn't contemplate the thought of marrying after our father. But of course, that must have been so hard for her. So,
how old was Mommy when Daddy died?
How old
was Mommy when Daddy died?
Okay, she wasn't even 40. She was in her late 30s because, yes, she was about 24, 25 when they married, so add 8 years to that. So like okay, that was the coup, but when he died, he passed on 6 years after the coup.
Let me ask you this emotional question.
Please,
have you ever questioned God why he took Daddy away so early?
Oh, never, because like I keep on saying, we are spiritual beings, so not being on earth doesn't mean you are not there. You know, for those of us who believe that we continue to live forever, he's not dead. You know, nobody dies. And particularly when you have impacted positively on the lives of many Ghanaians, Africans all over the world, not just in the continent, because he embraced what we call today the African diaspora or the global African family. So we don't die, and our influence, our guidance continues to help and advise and enrich those of us.
Has he ever appeared
Maybe we
in
cannot
your dream?
talk like this in person.
Has he ever appeared in your dream?
Oh yes, several times. I mean, whenever I had some momentous, very not difficult or very big decision to make, particularly when I was a bit younger, like when I was heavily pregnant and I found out I'm going to have a boy, and so I decided immediately after that dream to name him after, you know, our father, because I remember saying in the dream, look at what's happening to me, you know. And he said, oh, as for you, Yaba, you are a strong girl, which he always advised me to be. So yes, from time to time, even when I was working in London, after several years of work, and I decided to go back to school to complete my university education, he appeared in a very powerful dream because I was leaving a good, well-paid job with a bank to go back to school and, you know, and become a poor student. And he said, you know what to do. So so yes, I've had that. But as I grew older, rather than appearing to me, I mean, because I feel I've understood better his vision and mission, and I feel it's just time to revisit and recover his work, his thoughts, so that we can see what are we going to do with that gift. I consider him a prophet, an African prophet, someone who came to give us some guidelines, some advice that is still relevant and valid today. So now I feel much stronger and more certain about the validity of his work. So I don't dream about him that much anymore. It's time for action, I think. It's time for us to impart this to the younger generation like you, and we move. It's possible.
People often hold grudges. Of course, when your dad was taken away, you were young.
Sure.
Did you have any grudge towards the people that did this?
No, not at all. Because when you understand the politics of it, you don't take it personally. We understand why what happened. We even now know with the declassified documents coming, we know the extent of the foreign interference.
There was foreign interference?
Absolutely.
From which country?
From the CIA, the Western, what we call Western intelligence, including or spearheaded by the CIA. I mean, it's all coming out now, and more will come in the years to come. Someone just gave me the book White Malice by Susan Williams, a researcher, which the author said it started talking about she started writing it with the intention of analyzing the friendship between Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba of the Congo. But as she got more and more involved, it ended up being the CIA's interference in African countries, newly independent nations. So now we know it was just an attempt to stop a newly independent country with a nationalistic, patriotic, visionary leader from gaining economic independence, and influencing others. Because that was the thing. We had to change the colonial, our father used to call it the miserable colonial structure of our economies, where we just sell, raw materials and have to import very expensive stuff, equipment, technology, rather than learn how to do them by ourselves. So it's now that we understand that I can't hold grudges because that was an era, it happened, and we know why it happened. We've analyzed it. We are in a different era, and we need everybody. I am saying we need consensus. We need to build consensus amongst different kinds of thinking, different parties. So how can I say I want us to build consensus and hold grudges? There's a contradiction there.
Yeah.
You see? I'm willing to speak and work with people who think differently, as long as, not for the aim of just working with people who think different, as long as we agree to move forward in a certain way that will benefit all of us. And we can find common ground. You can always find common ground. It's hard work, it takes sacrifice, it takes a little compromise, but we can find it. And this is the time for it.
Okay.